Nathanius, Apollo, take it away.
Thank you, In Control, and welcome here to the casting desk. It's pretty much the same desk as we were on just now, but it's the commentary desk now.
Yeah, we've sequestered our half of the desk, and we are ready to talk about StarCraft 2. This Terran versus Zerg match will, once again, just like our last series, start on Deadwing, which can be a pretty weird map as far as opening the door for strategies. And, you know, seeing Snute on the loading screen, knowing that it's Snute, if we get those vertical spawns, like, we can talk about, you know, the parade push styles, you know, when you're looking at normal Terran versus Zerg. But Snute, if he gets vertical spawns, this is about as good of a position as you can be in for the swarm host style that he was kind of experimenting with for a long time.
And I'm sure we'll see that throughout the series. It's what he's working on. I'm sure he'll bring it out. But to go off what In Control was saying, how do you think MMA matches up against Snute?
I'm really not sure, because a lot of the games that I've seen MMA play against Snute, and it's not just in like the big tournaments, but both of these guys also play in a lot of online cups, and they've matched up a few times. I feel like I see MMA do stuff like Proxy Reaper a lot versus him. Like, he's always trying to throw him off in the early game, and that's going to be the biggest thing that I'm looking for, because I really feel like Snute has such a strong mid-late game, especially if he reaches that swarm host stage without taking damage. All
right, well, let's find out. The game is ready. Let's jump into it. It is the first game of the second half here, coming from Group C and D. Of course, this is the first game from Group D. And just like we saw earlier, every single game is incredibly important, Nathanius, at this stage of the tournament with so many good players. And here we go. The finalist from BlizzCon, up here to the top left, is the red Terran player playing for Team Acer. It's MMA. He's a great player, Nathanius.
A great player indeed. And looking to see how he's shaped up his Terran versus Zerg against this opponent, who can play quite unorthodox. In the southwest position, the blue Zerg from Team Liquid, he is Snute.
He's actually something we should bring up is just before, I guess, the last couple of hours, is Snute's been in the private VIP Razor Lounge, which is excellent. It's very fantastic. We were there just now as well.
Yeah.
It's cozy. It's quiet-ish. You know, it's kind of hard to be quiet at this LAN, but it's quiet-ish. He's been practicing there by himself for the last 5 hours. He's been playing some practice games versus someone I won't name, as they do like to keep those things private to each other. And he's just been playing Terran versus Zerg versus Terran, Zerg versus Terran, Zerg versus Terran. And he's warmed up. He's ready to go. And let's see if he can do a little bit better than his teammate from earlier on.
Yeah, this is an interesting situation to be placed in, because MMA was kind of, when you looked at his performance throughout the years, it's like, okay, you know, he's had a bit up and down, and in a lot of the big tournament victories, you know, you hear more about the TVPs that he'll play against players like Stardust, MC, but not quite as much about the Terran versus Zerg. And TVZ itself was kind of in a weird place for the early part of this year. Then things started to get a little bit better for the Terran side of things once we saw, you know, the Widow Mind Splash get restored to how it was at the release of Heart of the Swarm. But also maps like Merry-Go-Round and Nimbus were denying the fourth base, especially for Terran in Season 3 of WCS, just got a lot easier. This is not one of those maps where it's quite so easy, but MMA, it's just going to open up Reaper pretty standard here. Snute opening up with gas. Maybe we're going to see just a quick speed. Doesn't need to be crazy fast, but maybe he just wants to establish some early map control.
Yeah, getting Zergling speed is almost a must to take a third base nowadays with the Reaper, the Hellions. It's very difficult, I think, if you just have Queens. But let's see how this plays out, because I'm so interested in the mid part of this game, where we all know Snute can play his own unique style and do very, very well. But we'll see if we even get to that point, as MMA is known for his aggression. By the way, if you did notice a little bit earlier on, we did see a heavy drone scout from Snute looking for any potential 2-Raxes, as Moonglade did bring up the last time they played. He lost 2 games in a row in that semifinal in that best of 3 to 2-Raxes.
Yep, very important. MMA is one of the guys that, even on a map as big as this, is brave enough to try to bring out the wheel of cheese, as it were. And as Snute starts up his Zergling speed, it is important in case this has slipped your mind, anyone tuning in, but we do have vertical spawn. So as the Reaper gets pushed back, it's very important to keep in mind that we could end up seeing a very unusual Terran versus Zerg by, you know, at least we wouldn't expect it from anybody other than Snute.
Well, MMA's already chosen to take a very early second gas here, so he's starting to push away from the regular 3 command center set of builds here. So what are his options?
Well, I mean, you've got a couple good ones for this map. The door opens up for builds like the fast tank drop play. that most Zergs have kind of gotten okay enough at killing the rocks, like if they scout it to be all right against it. Then there's the Hellions Banshee, which we actually saw earlier today. And then moving forward, you've got a couple of other weird tiny ones, but it's usually Hellbat based. Marine Hellion drops usually go off of one gas, but this tech lab being built on the factory kind of leads me to believe, yeah, it's going to be that tank play. So he could go for the tank drop. And Snute seeing this, like if you're a Zerg player and this happens, it's never bad to just start like a spine crawler and use your queens and lings to just take down the rocks behind your natural, because that can be such a huge nuisance. And I think Snute's actually already got his forces working on them. So if you started early enough, you might not need the spine. However, if you do get caught up, it's going to be quite tricky. Just a handful of lings are going to kill that very slowly.
He did see it very early with that Overlord Scout. Great Overlord Scout. Changed his attention, and he's actually trying to break the rocks in between his second and third. As soon as he scouted, he turned his attention to the back rocks there and wants to prevent any damage from being dealt.
I really like where Snute took his third base, though, because when you see that, there's only one other spot, and that's across the gap by the third base, and then, you know, the normal third base, and you can shell from the other mineral line. It's very difficult to defend. So Snute choosing a different third, 100% because he does not want to have to worry about the tank drop really hurting him. And MMA following this up with Hellions is, you know, in other situations quite good because you can use them to cover the tanks if you take that higher up area. But right now, Snute seems to have everything in place to defend against this. Just, yeah, those rocks are about to break too.
That's right. It shouldn't really take too much damage at all here. Behind this, MMA has thrown down his third command center and will kind of transition into a more regular game. But he has invested a little bit of resources into this. So let's find out if he can get any worth from it. Because right now, as you said, Snute's looking kind of good.
Yeah, and the reason why this is a bad thing for MMA is to get this tank, to get this medevac. Yeah, he's opened the door to get this Viking that can clear Overlords, but he's delayed his stim, he's delayed his double engineering bay. He actually does not have engineering bays yet, and Snute, with the 1-1 upgrades already in progress, he's going to be in a really good position as far as the actual army versus army goes moving forward here. MMA, there's not really anything that he can use this tank for. Maybe he can try to shell across this gap, but at this point, he's playing in untested waters.
Yeah, he only grabs a single Overlord here, and anything else is going to be risky, so he should just want to pick up and get out of there.
Hellions taking some heat from these Zerglings, trying to push out across the map, of course. Nice cleanup, though. As long as you don't lose them, never bad to trade a little bit of hit points. But the engineering bays are just starting up. They're halfway done, as 1-1 is halfway done for Snute.
Yep.
It's not super common for the Zerg player to be ahead in upgrades against a Terran, especially as you get towards the 3-3. So Snute's bought himself a very nice, secure blanket where he should be able to take good trades. Now the tank, MMA still finds a way to make this useful.
Yeah, that's right. He's got 6 Hellions supporting from the high ground. So beautiful move here from MMA. And with only Zerglings currently, it's going to be a little bit difficult to break here with the Hellion support.
Yeah, I really like this. Using the Hellions to cover just makes this so nice. As long as you don't lose the medevac, these Marines can go up and down pretty much all day. And I like how Snute is also focusing on the medevac. He recognizes that it is the most important part of all of this. But now, well, as long as he has vision, the tank is still going to shell away. He doesn't really need to drop the Marines. It's just, you know, a little bit of icing on the cake. In fact, he could even try to swoop on over to the main base with all the queens actually being pulled over. In fact, I don't even think he's injecting his main or his natural anymore.
I know, this is very bad here for Snute. It started very well. I mean, he deflected the first type of push, but wasn't really ready for this one and already taken a lot of damage. He's got a lot of units out now, so he should be able to push this one back. MMA is going to unsiege his tank and try to save it at the very least. They're away from these queens, and he will do that. Excellent play here from MMA. Really, really nice.
Really nice. Few things to note. Okay, now the 2-2 starts up, but the layer's been done for a good 30, 40 seconds. No Spire started, no Baneling speed. So, I mean, also consider that
no Baneling nest.
He does,
okay,
he does have the Baneling nest, but he also lost one of the gases on that third base. So moving up to those upgrades has also become slightly more difficult. This counterattack, though, not bad. Kill a few SCVs, make that third command center lift up, and if you can break in, I guess you got to look for whatever you can get at this point.
Well, that supply depot is going to make a hole here, but great save there from MMA. Builds that supply depot just in the nick of time there.
Yeah, that could have been really
repair
bad.
These depots, but another one is going to go down here, and all of a sudden MMA having to put his SCVs on hold position here as the Lings flood through, and is there that much here? There's only a handful of Marines. It looks like there should be enough to push this back, but he's going to take losses.
Yeah, killing quite a few SCVs. Very nice. Now, MMA has transferred all of his units that he had into the main base of Snute at the same time. So the Zerg has been cleaned up. The Hellions are going to fight these Lings, and the Marines are soaking up a lot of damage with these 3 medevacs to heal them. So MMA still finds himself in a really great aggressive position. 16 more Lings. All the queens are going to be pulled. He's already pulled drones from the main to try to fight off against this. And against Marines, it's not really the strongest thing that you're going to have.
Absolutely not. And these units are doing a lot here for MMA. He pushes his back in a completely aggressive game from both sides here, but MMA, with this drop inside the main base, is getting the upper hand.
Yeah, I mean, Banelings are now on the way, but as long as MMA is looking at his army, his tank should be able to target fire them if they get too close. Never mind the fact that without a Spire, without Mutalisks, he could just pick up everything except the Siege tank and walk away with still a very nice trade overall. So everything comes up, okay, we'll lose the tank, but picks up some of the Marines, and that's pretty much all you could ask for, because he can jump over to this third base. The only thing that Snute had was the upgrade advantage, but he's even that up. I will say, just starting 2-2, he's still going to be behind once Snute has his ups.
Well, this is fantastic use and exploitation of the terrain here by MMA up and down these cliff areas, finding himself in the best positions. And he's leading this game currently against Snute. He's moving through the middle of the map. He's got quite a few units now, a couple of Widow Mines in support as well. 5 in total, I think, here. 4 or 5 in total. He's going to start pushing down here. Snute did complete with that Baneling speed. He will have 2-2, but there's only a ground army currently. Yeah, this is a little bit worrisome.
It's a really big problem that the Mutalisks are coming out so late, and it's, you know, it's not to Snute's fault. It's just that MMA's put on so much pressure and he's done so much damage that Snute couldn't reach this point, because it makes these Widow Mines really tricky to deal with. So he's forced to attack. The mines get some great detonations, picking up a few Banelings here and there, and MMA can continue to abuse his, the fact that there's no anti-air and just pick up all his Marines and dance them around.
That's right.
Snute, he can't get a good position on this army.
He can't, and this is great use of the upper ground and the low ground here. He's going to pick up and get out of here once again. The Spire's about to complete, so... But at the same time, even though that's about to complete, he really doesn't have that many resources because he's been starved so nicely from these bases.
Yeah, the only thing as MMA's forces gets kind of pushed away, because those 2-2 upgrades, you know, he's got that advantage at least for this little while, is he didn't really do anything to clear up the creep, but these Widow Mines are still getting them some really good trades either way. And actually, killing off most of those Banelings could almost try to drop again. Yeah. But yeah, the only thing that's nice for Snute about that is his creep tumors weren't targeted, he didn't scan, but still, he's got a long way to go to bring this game back.
I mean, all his queens are defending more so than actually lava injecting here, so he has very few lava to work with in this game. And he's slowly falling further and further behind in this now. 40 supply difference. The 2-2 upgrades are going to complete very soon here for MMA. He's throwing down his 4th command center. He's working on his economy. He's working on his production.
Yeah, that's a really good point. He only has 2 queens injecting hatcheries at the moment, so it really complicates things as far as trying to get out enough larva. But I guess that would also require him to have a really good economy to spend money, because MMA has been up on workers for a nice portion of this game. These Banelings are going to come, but all right, actually good job of baiting those Widow Mines, so he pushes this attack back, but then whoop, right up again you go. And with only 2 Mutalisks, it's not like this is going to really threaten the medevac positioning.
I know, the Mutalisks are going to die incredibly easy here. The 2-2 upgrades do complete from MMA, and he's absolutely toying with Snute in this series. Absolutely fantastic start here to the tournament for MMA, and anyone questioning whether MMA is going to be playing well in this tournament, I think can start to think twice on that. MMA scans ahead of time, has a quick look at the creep tumors, going to look at the high ground, and is in wonderful position to take map number 1.
Yeah, really great start to this series here for MMA, as there's a strong opening that got denied pretty well by Snute, but still managed to find a different way to make it work. And at this point, bringing everything, including your queens, to fight against this is just tricky. There's no mutas on the map, so MMA can just continue up and down. He's riding the escalator that is Terran versus Zerg when there's no Mutalisks on the map.
Yeah, just consistent reinforcements coming through the middle of the map here for MMA. Way too much for Snute to handle. And as soon as he starts to get broken on that hatchery, the game will end. GG called. And MMA, wonderful performance here from the Moscow champion.
Yeah, good game from MMA. That's got to be a little bit upsetting though. Like, I feel like it's a demoralizing, like just mental victory for MMA, because Snute, he scouted, he understood what was coming his way, and he made a couple of very smart decisions to avoid the #1 thing that happens when your opponent does this strategy. He took out the rocks behind his natural, so he couldn't drop behind that mineral line. He didn't take the 3rd that could be shot from across the gap. And, you know, the position that MMA took at the end of the day was still much more exposed than both of those, but the way that he had the Hellions position, and this is something that I only recently saw, is like, you don't just use the Marines, like you quickly get Hellions after, and if you try to bum rush that with Lings, like 6 Hellions on top of a ramp, you're not going to break that.
How are you going to stop this then, that type of opening? I mean, where does he go with this?
It's really tough. Like, I've seen Mutalisk openers handle this pretty well, but then you're still kind of, in a weird way, weak. If the Terran recognizes that you're doing a Mutalisk build, then they can just build Hellions when the reactor's done and run them by, and it's really tricky to deal with if you have late Zergling speed. So I also think that at that point, by the time you would scout the factory coming in, you would have already made the choice to go 2-base Muta or not. So it's a bit of a moot point. But getting Mutalisks out is one of the most important ways to deal with it. Just, I guess he probably didn't expect MMA to find that spot, to be honest. He didn't have many of his forces there to prevent him from planting the tank down.
Yeah, he's got to be definitely considering that for the later stage of this tournament. Of course, Snute in this group with a bunch of other Terrans as well. Jack G and Polton in here, definitely going to be, knowing about these positions, definitely going to be using them later on. But we are going to be going over to the next map here. It's going to be Nimbus. Again, not really the best map here for Snute to kind of turn this around on.
No, I mean, we talked about it before with Artosis, like, the spawns can make drops easier or Mutalisks easier, but it's not as significant as when the Terran secures themselves the 3 base. They start pushing towards the center of the map. If they've done even a half decent job at clearing creep, there's still never really any creep past the 4th. So it's very easy to deny for Terran while simultaneously going for drops, which is something that MMA has clearly shown us in this first game he kind of likes to do.
Yeah, he plays a very similar style across multiple matchups here with his medivacs, and he's actually driving Snute a little bit crazy in that first game, but hopefully Snute can compose himself, because at the start of the game, everything was going in his way. He had the faster upgrades, he broke the rocks down, and seemingly so it stopped this potential attack from happening, and then, he could push himself forward into the later stages, but in that game, he actually never was comfortable. At that point, like never, from the very get-go.
It's very important to keep in mind that because of the things you just mentioned, if Snute doesn't take that damage, or say he has like 40 lings that just catch the drop right as that tank is starting to siege, if he cleans it up, then he's ahead on upgrades. He's got his 3rd base set up faster because he went for the ling counter attack as well. And maybe we could even go as far as say that having those lings back home would have really helped him prevent that. Perhaps he was feeling a little bit overconfident. There's still a lot of, no matter, at the end of the day, his upgrades were much faster because of that, and he should have had an advantage based on the way that the openings played out.
All right, well, the second game is ready, so let's jump into this one straight away here. MMA looking fantastic here, just like he did at BlizzCon not too long ago. And he has spawned up here to the top right-hand side as the red Terran player playing for Acer. It's MMA, and he's been playing very well over these last couple of months. Had a very difficult halfway through the year, Nathanius, but stepped it up in the second half. And up here to the top left, he's got a lot of pressure on his shoulders with Bunny being eliminated from the tournament just a little bit earlier on today. He's the last remaining non-Korean in this tournament. Make some noise for Liquid Snute.
Yeah, Snute, important to keep in mind, of course, in the 5-player groups, the top 3 players advance out of the group. So even with this 0-1 in the first series that he's playing, Snute still has many opportunities ahead of him. It's not, losing this series isn't something that's going to really set you back too far behind. And I'm only mentioning this because MMA has just been rock solid the last couple months that we've seen him playing. He's been consistently dominant in the World Championship Series Europe tournament, and his performance at BlizzCon was nothing short of exceptional. So looking at this map does not make things any easier. If anything, for the way that we talk about Snute liking swarm hosts against Terran, that was the map to do it on with those spawns. And not being able to get that, it can't make you feel good about the rest of the series.
Yeah, we'll see how well he's going to be maybe disturbed from his regular thought processes, his mentality's got to stay strong here, especially at this level of competition. Such a very difficult group that these players have landed themselves in. I mean, MMA Snute, then you've got Jack G, you've got then Impact in there, you've got Polt in here. Every single one of these players is going to be fighting for that top 3 finish. And we saw earlier, despite beating a semi-finalist from BlizzCon, you can still get eliminated in the early stages of Dreamhack Open.
Yeah, and Snute will have to keep, not just those types of strategies in mind, but also looking at players like Jagchi, like they're going to bring out builds like that against you. They're not, Jagchi's not going to play the most passive games you've ever seen.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a mech build, but at the same time, MMA has also shown those on occasion as well. But looking at the spawns for this map, not only do we discuss like the 4th base being hard to take, but these are the spawns that favor MMA being aggressive via the sky. This is one of those maps where I'd say I absolutely love the Reaper into Reactor, really fast Marine drop, just straight Marine drop. You get like 8 or so, and you run you try to run Hellions by, and you really pull the Zerg in every which direction. Strategies like that are so much better when the Zerg has to worry about those, those aggressive plays.
And MMA favorite to do that, Nathanius.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting matchup, just because if you've played against Snute, and MMA, I've seen games where he's played against Snute's Swarm Host style and had a lot of trouble against it. you know, that's the kind of stuff that you face it, you see it, and you're like, I never want to have to deal with this again. So he knows what he usually needs to do. I will say, he's taken a very interesting turn with his opening on this map. I'm largely noticing like he's built up a lot of his gas, and technically he still gets the reactor and the factory at the same time. So it's not like delaying building the factory delayed his Hellions, because he would have had to wait for the reactor anyway.
Yeah, one of the worst parts about this here is that, you know, as a Zerg player, there's a lot of different types of openings that Terran can hit you with in the early stages. Hellbat pushes, Widow Mine drops, Hellion Marines, you know, whatever. There's a lot of different types of openings. And MMA has played one of the more conservative, very, you know, defensive setup with 3 command centers, then kind of look for a strategy choice later. Snute has no ideas. Snute has to be thinking of all these different types of opening. He has no really good overlord position where he can get in. There's a Marine or 2 denying an access for an overlord to get in there. So the way that these 2 builds are set up, clearly favoring MMA.
Yeah. The thing is, MMA, it's almost like he's kind of abusing his opponent in a weird way. Like, Snute is not the guy that you look at and you say, oh, this guy Baneling Bust, this guy Roach Bane all in. It's like, that's not really Snute. That's not really Snute's style. So going Sans Reaper, saying, I don't really need to scout you that fast. I can still go for 1 Marine, get my quick 3rd command center, while simultaneously still getting that 2nd gas and going for what seems to be a Banshee play is a totally viable option, because as we can see, even though MMA hasn't scouted Snute, Snute's not taking advantage of that by building a fast Baneling Nest or Roach Warren.
That's right. Right now, Snute did poke in with his overlord. He had his scout to the starport in the barracks there with the tech lab on it. And then decided to build a couple of additional Zerglings. Spore Crawler's coming in here. So he is expecting Banshee play to come from this, but in reality, it's just a Viking and then Stim coming in and just kind of a regular setup here.
Yeah, I'm slightly intrigued that MMA's taking his 3rd gas already, so I'm thinking maybe, okay, he wants to get his upgrades. Maybe we'll see a Medevac on top of all of this to follow this up. He's going to have quite a bit of gas income. Usually, Terrans won't do this until they start their 2nd and 3rd barracks. You don't want to go past 2 gas, so I am intrigued, to say the least. Evolution Chamber starting up for Snute, though, getting a spine. He's not 100% sure what he seems to be up against either.
I mean, the Spore Crawler is very good overall here in this position. If there's to be a drop in this area, if there's a Banshee in this area, just kind of good. He knows this is a weak point of his setup across these 3 bases. But he is starting to spread his creep, get his drone count up, adding on the Evolution Chambers. There are 6 Hellions, though, just on the outside of his creep, threatening, as well as this Banshee just being a nuisance, picking up any of the overlords at the top here. But Snute's got some very aggressive Zerglings out on this map. He's got a few on his creep, and he's got a few on the other side as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you can catch the Zerglings, it's always nice, but he's also going to try to go for a backstab at the same time. Not really open. Like, if you kill the SCV building the barracks, that's cute, but like these handful of Marines with Stim coming close, there's not really a lot you can do here. Killing the SCV is nice, though, you know. Delaying the production is always a good thing, but MMA, this game, very different to the last, has his upgrades slightly ahead of Snute.
And Snute now starting to realize that he is free to further his economy and set up his production. Baneling Nest coming in, 1-1 upgrades coming in, but here comes the first drop, the first bit of aggression, the real aggression coming from MMA. It's going to be 4 Hellions to the back here. Ling's already on pursuit. They're going to make their way in. They're going to push this back quite easily. No damage taken there by Snute, so far okay.
Yeah, nothing really crazy. Like, nothing super crazy has happened in this game. Snute is actually firing up quite a few Zerglings. This is intriguing to say the least. He's ahead on drones right now. He doesn't want to power up too hard. This drop play is keeping him on his toes a little bit. Queen's really trying to get that medevac. It's quite low, but not able to get that pickup just yet. MMA's getting his armory, and he's really powering up his barracks production, because MMA on 3 bases is going to get ready to push, but Snute, he needs to start thinking about how he's going to get that 4th, you know, that ever so tricky 4th. And as we can see, just the way this map is laid out, there's no creep anywhere near it. And it's not like Snute forgot how to plant creep tumors. It's just really far away.
And he's going to use these queens to spread some more here, but that's definitely going to be where we're going to see MMA start to push through here. 13 Banelings, no Spire yet it's thrown down. It's just the 2nd come in. And we are making it quite well into the mid-game. As 1-1 upgrades about to complete here for MMA, and very shortly with these medevacs popping out, we're going to start to see MMA get some more damage done, Nathanius, aren't we? Yeah,
that drop play is going to be starting up pretty soon. A few things that Snute definitely needs in order to sustain himself moving forward is going to be that Baneling speed he has on the way, but also this Spire, which is still quite late compared to, you know, a lot of other builds that gave you a little bit of earlier map control. So He's got about a 40, 50-second window where he's MMA can do a lot of damage, clear up all this creep, and just pull up in his medevacs if he needs to.
Whoa, he's going to pick up and drop on this natural area here. Snute not quite ready. He's morphing 10 banelings around the third base. He's not expecting this type of move here.
Yeah, this is really nice. That Widowmine also has a chance to make a big play. Turns all the Hellions into Hellbats. And I love this. He unburrows the Widowmine, repositions it. He's waiting to use this against the Banelings, and he gets them. A very large number of Banes picked off. And actually, really, really cute maneuver there from MMA.
Deals a lot of damage with hardly losing any units there.
Yeah, that's a really nice pickup. He's up 1/4 the amount of resources lost as his opponent. Now he's clearing up the creep tumors. Baneling speed is about to finish up, so he should be able to push this back. But mutas are just a little bit too far out for him to be able to get to actually kill this.
Yeah, nice split up there from Snute, avoiding the Widowmine hit onto the Banelings. But another massive pickup here. That's 5 medivacs full of units. Oh my gosh, what a hit from that Widowmine. That was huge.
That's a game-winning Widowmine hit right there. There's not any more Banelings on the map. In fact, all the Zerglings that he has are just now spawning. Keep in mind the upgrades are even, so they can trade pretty damn well. He's got the Marauders up front, soaking up the Zergling hits. This is just good control from MMA. He's going to slaughter absolutely everything here for Snute. Moving up, targeting down the Banelings that are being morphed, and on top of that, he could go for the Zerglings, get the Queens, get the Evolution Chambers, and I upgrade. MMA's pretty much got this one in the bag.
As he's got such a large army inside the main base, you look down here and there's another squad of units crushing through the middle there, and it's going to be over. GG is called. MMA takes a swift 2-0 against Snute. Very, very good play here coming out from MMA. Hardly any mistakes. He's exploiting the right areas. He's pulling the right moves. He's looking great entering this tournament.
Yeah, did a really good job, especially after the way that the first game played out, just keeping Snute on his toes for game 2. We saw the Spore Crawler, we saw the Spine Crawler. Two things that's like, well, the Spore would be good if there were Banshees. The Spine Crawler would be good if there was a frontal assault. But MMA setting himself up for that quick drop follow-up where he dropped all the Hellions and the Marines and just made a Hellbat transformation in Snute's base. That was just like a sick play that you really don't see that often.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic play there. A little bit sad there for Snute to just get pushed aside so easily. We all really expected that we'd see a bit of a better fight there from him, but unfortunately it was MMA that made that 2-0 very, very easy on his side of things, and a great kickoff start to his tournament here. But as we've seen from the other players as well, one loss and then just one other one, and then you're looking at potential defeat and elimination from the tournament so early.
Yeah, there's a lot more pressure on Snute now, opening up with that loss. MMA has a bit of that safety blanket as far as looking forward in the tournament series goes. So it's a good start to him. He's got to be feeling good, and Snute's definitely one of the tougher guys that you're going to face as far as Zergs go.
Yeah, absolutely. So in control, Moonglade back with us once again. Hello, how you doing? Actually, never mind. It seems like Smix is ready, so we'll talk to you in a little bit there. So Smix, take it away.
Thank you very much, Apollo. Congratulations, MMA, on winning your first match for your group. That must always feel very good. First question for you, after being a grand finalist at BlizzCon, how did you spend your time afterward? Did you spend some time to relax, or did you immediately start to practice with Fragbite coming up as well as this tournament, Dreamhack Open, the grand finals? 뭐지 그 블리츠콘 결승전까지 가고 난 다음에 시간을 어떻게 보내셨어요? 좀 휴가 시간 좀 보냈나? 아니면 바로 연습으로 들어가셨어요? 아니면 대회 몇 개 또 있었으니까?
한 일주일 정도 푹 쉰 다음에 이제 드림맥 윈터 다가오기 때문에 그때부터 일주일 정도 푹 쉬고 그 다음부터 연습에 매진했어요.
So MMA says, I spent about a week to relax and do whatever I wanted. And then after that, I knew that I had Dreamhack Winter coming up. So I decided to head into hard work and practice as soon as I could after that 1 week of relaxation. MMA, in your group, you have 2 Terrans and 2 Zergs. When the groups were released, how did you feel about your group?
일단 프로토스가 없어서 준비하는 데는 좀 다른 조보다 좀 편했던 것 같아요. 왜냐면 2종족만 연습을 좀 집중적으로 하면 되니까 그래서 좀 편했던 것 같고요. 일단 첫 경기 이렇게 잘 이겨서 좀 다행이네요.
So he says, it was really comfortable for me in terms of preparing because there was no Protoss in my group, which meant I could mainly focus on just 2 matchups, playing against Terrans as well as playing against Zergs. So that was really easy for me, and in addition to that, I'm just really happy that I was able to win my first match for the day. Last but not least, MMA, we spoke to both Life and Tasia earlier. and they both only talked about each other when talking about good players at this tournament that they're worried about. What do you have to say to that, or what do you think about that? 이승현 선수와 윤영선 선수와 아까 전 인터뷰했을 때 이 대회에서 좀 그래도 좀 가장 어려울 것 같은 선수, 뭐 좀 위험한 선수 이렇게 물어봤을 때 항상 둘이만 얘기했었거든요. 그래서 그거에 대해서 할 말 있는지 아니면 그냥 생각이 어떻게 되는지.
뭐 지들끼리 잘 노는 거죠. 뭐. 저는 뭐 조용히 올라가겠습니다.
MMA says it just seems like they're having fun playing with just one another. That's totally fine. I'm gonna quietly rise to the top. So thank you very much, MMA. Congratulations again. We are gonna head back to the studio desk. So Sean, over to you.